All right, so it's essentially the same article, right? ICE invades wrong home, steals their savings, and then leaves. Recent reports confirm federal immigration agents, including ICE, mistakenly raided a home of an American citizen in Oklahoma City, traumatizing the family, damaging their property, and confiscating their cash and belongings. Okay, you didn't need all that shit. We all know it's traumatizing. We all know it damages their property. They raided the wrong home, right? You see what I mean about language? I keep pointing it out. It's to essentially poison the well, right? Because raided the wrong home and confiscated their cash and belongings. Now I want you to think about this. One day they're going to break into the wrong house one day and lives will be lost. This is true. This incompetence from the Trump administration. Is it? Is it? Is it? This is why I love this. It's just like the fucking Obama cages. As if ICE is the only agency that breaks into the wrong home and then steals people's money and belongings and confiscates it. As if ICE is the only one. Let's see what the notes say. The warrant was issued to search that specific property, but the current occupants are American citizens, not the target of the raid, as stated in the article. Interesting. So they didn't raid the wrong house. It's just the wrong occupants were in it. Interesting. So let's look at this. Oklahoma raided by ICE is owned by human smuggling suspect. The Department of Homeland Security posted a statement on the X story. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Investigation set out the facts of exactly what happened. A spokesperson for the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement said agents were carrying out a court-approved, so I want to point that out, court-approved search warrant for a large-scale human smuggling operation when they raided a home in northeast Oklahoma City on Thursday. An indictment shows that Lopez is allegedly a major player in the human smuggling case that agents have been working on for years. The Department of Homeland Security said they have proof the group transported people from Guatemala, Mexico, Colombia, Central, South America, and China, then concealed and harbored those undocumented people all across the country. Records show that she owns a home that was raided as well as another one in Oklahoma City. 8 arrests were made in that investigation, which was years in the making and was no part of any new immigration enforcement. The Department of Homeland Security posted a statement about the story on X, the total social media platform formerly known, blah, 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 blah. April 24 Oklahoma ICE operation was a lawful court-authorized action explicitly targeting a property that was a hub for human smuggling, not specific individuals, falsely just suggested by media reports. The prior day to the search warrant issue and the day of the search warrant, HSI, Homeland Security, I'm pretty sure, conducted surveillance and confirmed via utility records that a member of Lima Lopez transnational criminal organization was still paying utilities at the resident. So they did actually scout out the resident. Interesting. The warrant issued by a federal judge was based on an 84-page affidavit detailing probable cause that address served as a stash house for human smuggling, authorizing the seizure of evidence such as electronic devices and documents regardless of who was present. The warrant targeted the property itself, not specific individuals, and its execution was not contingent on the presence of any person. HIS, with Oklahoma State Police support, executed the warrant with precision, seizing electronic devices as authorized. The court-authorized search was a critical strike against dangerous human smuggling network in furtherance of our mission to protect American communities from the chaos unleashed, blah, 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 by the Biden administration. Of course, they fucking went political with it. So, do you believe them or not? You know, that's essentially what we're going down to. So, we know 4 homes have been raided in Oklahoma City as part of human smuggling investigation by DHS and ICE agents. The home raided on Thursday was the target of Homeland Security and immigration agents. So it wasn't ICE, it was Homeland Security and ICE. A senior official for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security told us that the agents were serving a search warrant listed the home. They said the people inside the home were U.S. citizens who had recently moved in. The previous residents were the intended targets of the raid. Legally, if the warrant is for the home and not just a specific individual, agents have the right to enter. Yes, they do. When a search warrant is issued, signed by a judge, it very much specifies the location. It specifies what objects they can search for, or if they're to detain certain individuals. It's like you could take these. It's like you could take these kinds of items. Okay. In the warrant, it says you can seize these types of items. That's what it's saying. Most of the time, when ICE agents are looking for specific individuals, they will have an administrative order of arrest. Okay. The incident obtained by blah, blah, blah. Shows 8 Guatemalan nationals were the targets of investigation as part of the organization. Their charges range from drugs, fraud, money laundering, and entry after deportation. The investigation has gone on for 4 years and prior to any recent changes in ICE policies. Investigators say they were charging about $5,000 per person into the country illegally. Tried knocking on the door of the home that was raided to ask the family if they could tell us more details about what happened, but nobody answered. I wonder why. Okay, well, if you believe the government, that's what happened. Now, I'm not going to say that. Let me put it to you like this. I do believe that if you're lying about the search warrant, that would technically be illegal, right? All right, so let's talk about this. It's an interesting headline, isn't it? So, let's talk about, what's the term? There's a term where if police suspect that you have property, specifically like money, that's involved in criminal activity, but they don't have probable cause that you're in criminal activity to arrest you, they can literally seize the money. It's asset forfeiture. That's what it is. Asset forfeiture. So, as these motherfuckers are freaking out over the fact that ICE raided a home that they suspected, literally a 4-year-long investigation. They had an actual warrant to raid the home that they were in. They did not raid the wrong home. The people they were looking for were not in the home. The home was correct, but the people they wanted weren't. And that they stole their money and leaves. Asset forfeiture is a legal process where the government seizes property, cash, vehicles, homes, and other assets believed to be connected to criminal activity. It is often used in cases involving drug trafficking, money laundering, and organized crime. There are 2 types: criminal forfeiture, which requires a conviction and the target's property tied to a specific crime, and civil forfeiture. This is the one we're talking about. There we go. And civil forfeiture, which doesn't require a conviction, so you do not have to be convicted of a crime, and can target property, it targets the property, not the person, suspected of being involved in illegal activity, even if the owner isn't charged. In the U.S., civil forfeiture is controversial because it can occur without proof of guilt, and owners must prove their property's innocence to reclaim it. So there's no formal due process for your property, because your property is not a person. So you have to prove the property's innocence rather than them proving the property is guilty. Think about that. So if you're driving around with large amounts of cash for whatever reason, doesn't matter why, you're allowed to do so. This is the United States of America. And the police pull you over and somehow legally search your vehicle and find the money, and they can literally seize it and keep it. And you have to go through a lengthy court process, which could cost you more money than they seized, to get it back. So yes, and owners must prove their property's innocence to reclaim it, which can be costly and complex. Law enforcement agencies often keep a portion of the seized assets, raising concerns about incentives to seize property aggressively. And that is what it is right here. Many law enforcement agencies, especially the ones that seem to abuse this, absolutely have incentives where they get to keep a portion of the cash. So if you have $100,000 on you in your car and the police seize it this way, they turn it over to I believe they turn it over to the federal government or whatever, or whatever, the DEA or whatever. And they get a cut of that cash for their department, not the officers, the department, right? Which means they can afford more cruisers and so on and so forth, right? More overtime, so on and so forth. Kind of awful. Yes, civil asset forfeiture is fucked up and it needs to stop. It basically operates like this. Imagine you're a teenager and you're smoking weed in your mom's basement. Many of us have done so. The police raid your house because they think you're a drug dealer. You're not a drug dealer. You just smoke weed. So you have to buy it illegally at, in a place where it's illegal. They seize your drugs, and they could specifically target your parents' cars, the house itself, the any property they have in the thing, because any of that stuff could be potentially in the commission of the crime that they're trying to investigate you for, which is you selling drugs when you're actually just a user. I remember cases about this happened where somebody's house was literally seized by the government because one of their kids had brought drugs into the house, and the officers suspected they were selling drugs, and so they literally seized all of their property, including the car that the mother used to drive the kid around in, and the house that they lived in, their literal house. They just stole it and kicked them out. And I do remember some more stuff about this. It was found out that prosecutors and stuff, one of the prosecutors was like moved into their house and was living in it. Yeah, it was a really fucked up story. Anyway, for example, in 2021, the U.S. Department of Justice reported over $6 billion in assets seized through forfeiture programs. Now, that does not mean that all of the things that they have seized are people's like personal cash. A lot of this is also for drug dealing. So imagine they raid a house of an actual drug dealer and they find cash stacked to the fucking ceiling in one of the rooms. They can take it under this. Critics argue it violates due process. It does, while supporters say it's a vital tool to disrupt crime by cutting off financial resources. It's both. The reason it's abused is because regular officers can use it against you driving down the fucking street, working class, poor, or even middle class, who don't have that much money, who are probably not committing any egregious crimes like drug trafficking and human smuggling. And they use it to take your shit. Just like they use it to seize the assets of fucking cartel drug dealers and human smugglers and human traffickers and sex traffickers. And that's the problem, is it's being weaponized by local police departments against regular people. So when you see this, oh my God, ICE, no, this shouldn't say ICE. It should say fucking police. And this is something that's going on for years. People have been bitching about this. Remember? Obama cages. Remember that. Oh, we've got kids in cages. Trump put kids in cages. It's like the Nazis. Except Obama built the cages to protect the kids. Civil asset forfeiture has been a thing for a while that people have been bitching about. But apparently, Hafiz Rashid apparently didn't know that. Because now it's an ICE problem. And so does this chuckle fuck. Mistakenly raided the home of an American citizen. No, they didn't mistakenly raid the home of an American citizen. They raided the correct home. It's just the people they were looking for weren't in there. Traumatizing the family. Yes, of course, a police raid will traumatize your family. Damaging their property. Break the door, of course. And confiscating their cash and belongings, which the warrant said they could do. They're going to break into the wrong house one day and lives will be lost. Do you know what happens if the police conduct a raid on your house, like a no-knock warrant, and you shoot them, and you're not a criminal? I.e., they break into the wrong house, or you're not actually doing anything wrong, and so you shoot at the police, potentially wounding and killing them. Guess what happens? They don't charge you with a crime. You know why? Because if you were innocent and they were wrong house or something like that, what that means is that you were defending yourself against an invader that you had no idea who they were. And it doesn't matter that they're police. That's the cost that the police pay, is that they could potentially die doing something fucking retarded because they got the wrong intel. That's the price they pay. Hence why they should probably have better training and more money, but I digress. So if the police were to conduct a no-knock raid on my house and I were to kill 3 of them, I would probably not even be charged with a crime. Even if the no-knock were for my actual house. If they suspect me of a crime and they no-knock me when when they could literally just come and get me, I never leave my fucking house, dude. They could knock on my door and I would surrender. It's that simple. But the point is that if they did that, it is entirely possible I wouldn't even be charged. And even if I were charged, I would probably be acquitted. We've actually had things like this happen where they break into some dude's house because they think he's a drug dealer, and the dude shoots back thinking he's being invaded, and he was even dealing drugs. He was like growing pot or something, and they still acquitted him on shooting the cops. I mean, they put him away for the drug dealing, but he didn't get charged. They acquitted him on shooting the cops because he thought someone was breaking into his fucking house in the middle of the goddamn night. And it's legal to defend yourself, even if you're criminal scum, and especially if you're not a criminal and they just happen to think you are and they're doing an investigation, then it's even more in your favor, right? Especially in places that have what I would consider more correct gun laws, like Tennessee, Texas, in most instances anyway, and a lot of southern states, and a lot of other states are coming on board. Arizona's another good place, right? And it really protects the people. Because if law enforcement knows that they could die doing a no-knock raid, they're more likely to do something more like, instead of no-knocking my fucking house, if they fucking stake out my house for long enough, they would know I leave at certain times, right? There are certain days I leave to do things, like go to the store and stuff like that, right? Like you'd be able to figure this out and you just arrest me while I'm out in public. No need to break into my house. Then you could just break into my house with the key, right? Because you got a warrant, I'll just give you the key. You don't have to break my door down. Like, it's like, I know it sounds stupid, right? Because a lot of criminals aren't going to do that. And if they suspect me to be a criminal, obviously they're not going to trust my word for it. But it really is one of these things where I do believe that the police depend far too much on these no-knock raids when you don't need them, right? Because they incorrectly push out that these individuals might be, dangerous gun-toting drug dealers, when it might be true, but they don't have the proper intel, right? In some of these instances that may be true and some of it maybe not. But that's why these raids are so fucking dangerous, is because you do have armed Americans who will fucking shoot you. And they have every right to do so. So you could die and get no justice as a cop if you do no-knock raids. That's absolutely something that can happen. You might kill one or two, but they can still kill you. Yeah, sure, of course they can. My point is that if you do end up shooting the cops and injuring and potentially killing them, that you won't be held criminally. You probably won't be held criminally liable for it, especially if they're entering the wrong house, right? Or they're wrong about their intel about you being a drug dealer, right? Because if they break into your house and they search your house and it's obvious that there's none of the shit that they thought was there, and you ended up shooting a couple cops, you're probably not, like I said, you're probably not going to be charged. And if you are, you're probably going to be acquitted. Because, I mean, literally you thought somebody was breaking into your home. And the reason I talk shit about I'd be able to kill a few of them is because I know the parts of my house to stand and fight and shoot where the person who is the defender has the maximum advantage from cover, concealment, and angle for shots. So don't break into my house. You'll die. Get a warrant and hit my ring bell. Do it the right way. And we all live. Yeah, but the issue is less about serving prison time for those mistakes and more about who gets hurt in the process. That's fair. Absolutely, that's fair. Because they do sometimes kill people accidentally that way, and that's why it's an issue. Yes, absolutely they do. They 100% do, and that's why it's a problem. That's why I don't like it. But that doesn't mean that it's not necessary in some situations. My contention is that it's become like the default for a lot of these situations because it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very easy to want to, because what no-knock raids gives you is a surprise, overwhelming force of power. So you're taken off guard, you're completely off balance, and you're probably not armed, and you're being surrounded by dudes with guns, right? So the point of them is to bring overwhelming force and shock to the person you're trying to do, so they don't fight back at all. So they literally just go into freeze, and they just stop because basically you want them to think anything they do will only lead to death, and if you do that, most people will just give in, right? unless they're actual criminal scumbags who don't care about going to jail, and then they might try to fight, right? But you've already got the advantage, so that makes it easy to contend with. That is a very appealing thing for cops because it gives them they think it gives them all the advantage. And so I can understand why they find it appealing, because they think it will make them safer. When in fact, because they're making it more and more standard practice, and especially in many places where they have like drug problems and trafficking problems and things, they if it becomes too standard a practice, then not only do people recognize it, but it also becomes more dangerous because you're going into places where you don't need it, and you could potentially harm innocents, or innocents could harm you. It's the problem with the law in general, the police conduct in America in general. Well, so that's the thing, is like, you hear about all this stuff, right? But how many interactions are there with Americans every day with the police? Millions. Yet these stories while many are prevalent, right, especially with asset forfeiture, no-knock raids and stuff like that, they don't happen nearly as much as people think they do, simply because the news reports on things that are exciting. If it leads, it bleeds, right? So you would get a misconception about how often and how bad these things are, when statistically speaking, they're relatively rare. It's like humans are really bad at statistics, just generally, to get a sense of things, especially if you just watch news, or even on X or whatever. If you're like, especially like with the police brutality stuff that was real big in the aughts on Facebook, where it would just feed you nonstop videos about police being stupid. But no matter how many of those videos you watch, you're still looking at a small microcosm of police interactions, and you don't see the millions upon millions upon millions that happen every single day all across our nation, with both local, state, and federal police that go just fine, where the officers and the people who are being interacted with, the civilians being interacted with, they're cordial, respectful. Even if there are arrests made, everybody's doing the right thing. There's no bullshit, and just everything's fine, right? Everything's fine. And a lot of people know that if you're getting arrested, don't fight the cops. Simple as that. Not fighting the cops actually look good for you. If they're there to arrest you and they have a warrant, submit. It looks good for you in court. So when you have to defend yourself, you're showing that you're submitting to the system. Anyway. So most media websites nowadays are left-leaning, so the kinds of stories are especially common now because it helps put across that the administration is bad. Exactly. And that's one of the things why I wanted to bring this up, is because this is not a Trump thing. This is an American policing thing. And it needs to fucking die, is what it does. Regardless of the fact, there's probably not much different than exactly. It's not much different than every other administration. The only difference is that ICE was involved in this, and so who's on the front page? ICE. Even though it was a Homeland Security thing, ICE just happened to be there as part of Homeland Security. ICE is on the headline. Why? Well, it makes Trump look bad, because this is like, oh, ICE is going to come into your house and steal your money and break your shit. And if you read the article, it's like, well, I mean, they had a warrant. So yeah, they're going to do that. If they got a warrant to fucking raid your house, they're going to raid your house, dude. Simple as. It sucks. And they shouldn't be able to just tear your house apart and damage all of your property without, paying for it, especially if they're wrong, which does happen. I've seen pictures of people's houses that were just completely stripped, like they broke open all the walls and shit. And it was like literally they have to like redo the entire interior of their new house. All their furniture is destroyed and all this shit, and they get no compensation from the government, which is ridiculous. If the police tear apart your home and they don't find what's in that warrant they think you're guilty of, they absolutely should pay to fix every fucking thing in that house. And the police should be responsible for having to fucking pay for it. So what that means is that they're not going to break down walls unless they're fucking sure of it, because it might come out of their fucking paycheck and it might come out of their fucking pension, which is a good thing. If you hold people personally accountable, bad shit will stop happening. As much. Brutal personal accountability. That's the way to go. And I despise the fact that police unions exist because so many of them hide bad police officers and allow bad police officers to stay on the force. But they do, for some reason, they don't protect the good ones, and I don't know fucking why. Oh, because it's not in their best incentive. That's right. Because the police union is not to protect us, it's to protect the police officer. That's why. So it doesn't matter if you're a good boy or not. Right? Missed your message? Oh yeah, the Crash Bandicoot thing. Yeah, the police. Yeah. So Flamin brings up a good one. There was a white guy with his white girlfriend playing Crash Bandicoot. They were making a lot of noise because they were, a little drunk and having a good time, right? And a neighbor reported them and lied about it. Yeah, they did. The police knock on the door, and when they arrive, the white guy opens the door with a gun in his hand, not really raised. It wasn't raised. It was at his side. And when they tell him to lower the weapon, he does, and he gets shot 3 or 4 times instantly. No. It's like he steps out, and they immediately just shoot him because they've got officers on both sides of the wall. He steps out, they see the gun, they take him down. And then all you can hear from that is his girlfriend screaming. They instantly killed him. It was a fucking atrocious, dude. He is allowed to carry a weapon. He is allowed to have it in his home. He shouldn't have stepped out with the police there. He shouldn't have even opened his fucking door when they knocked. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I have a ring for a reason. If the police come to my door and want to talk to me, they will be talking to me through my ring. My door will not open. It will not happen unless they have a warrant. That door's staying closed. They're not coming to my house. They're not. I'm not looking at them. I'm not gonna go anywhere near them because there's too many bad officers who do stupid shit like what you're talking about, right? Where they have some kind of fucking excuse to where they can do some really dumb shit. And I don't believe any of those officers were held accountable, by the way, for murdering that dude. And that's what they did. They fucking murdered him because they were fucking scared little bitches. Yeah, scared little bitches is what they were. You're police, dude. This is your job. You know Americans can carry guns. He's allowed to have a gun in his house. He wasn't pointing it at you. What the fuck? And the funny thing is that who really should be charged is the person who lied about them, because he said they weren't just making noise. It sounded like they were killing somebody or something like that in there or something like that. That person should definitely be charged with something, because that guy is dead because of them. They basically used the police to murder that guy. Kind of how that works. Now, obviously, if there's more stuff and the guy was just, they're being really loud and they're screaming, it actually sounds like there's something going on over there that's, really bad. If it was something like that on the phone call where it's like, I think something might be bad going on, then that's excusable. But if he's like, oh, dude, they're actually, like, I saw them carry a woman inside, like, bound and stuff, and they're doing horrible things to her. If they said something like that, they should definitely go to jail. Absolutely. Well, one, because it's working class white people. That's why. If it was a rich white woman, you better believe it would have made national news. Okay, so